Welcome. So, as promised, I am doing a video on the intersection, the difference between feminine pride and male ego. We all been watching this whole Will and Jada fiasco like just blow up behind our like in front of our eyes, right? And it's causing us to have some conversations that I really think are long overdue. They're conversations that are not new in its concept. In fact, there are a lot of male content creators who have been talking about these very same things for a long time. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, we just aren't having enough women address these issues, which is what I'm here to do today, okay? So before I go any further, I want to dive into exactly what the definition of these two terms are. All right. So let's start with the ego. Okay. So this comes directly from the dictionary. All right. So this isn't me making anything up. All right. So ego, it is the I or self of any person. A person is thinking, feeling, willing, distinguishing itself from the selves of others. Psychoanalysis, the part of the psychic apparatus and experience that reacts to the outside world and thus, okay, you can read all that. Let me go a little bit down. Let me bring you to the one that I think is the simplest one for us to look at. Egotism, conceit, self-importance. Her ego becomes more unbearable each day. Self-esteem or self-image, feelings. Your criticism wounded his ego. Ego is a term that we associated with men when it comes to things like why a man would go slap another man, right? At the Oscars, his ego was hurt, right? We talk about it so readily, right? Women are constantly talking about the need to destroy the male ego. But then as we look at things, when women are feeling a certain type of way, for whatever reason, it's determined as pride. So I want to look at pride next, all right? Pride, a high or inordinate opinion of one's own dignity, importance, merit, or superiority, whether as cherished in the mind or displayed in bearing, conduct, etc. The state or feeling of being proud, a becoming or dignified sense of what is due to oneself or one's position. We're going to circle that one right there. Or character, self respect, self esteem. Two words that we saw attached to the ego as well. Pleasure or satisfaction taken in something done or belonging to oneself, or believed to reflect credit upon oneself. All right, so now let's get to the meat and potatoes. When we talk about ego, the feminine ego versus the male pride, did I say that backwards? I did. We're going to go ahead and play with those terms. I think that was a Freudian slip, right? Feminine ego. Right now, the world is consumed with this concept that says that women just cannot be charged for anything that they do, right? We're witnessing it in the lack of accountability of Jada herself. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We're looking at it in regard to relationships, right? Where the question is asked, what does a man bring to the table? Yet when a woman is asked what you bring to the table, your feminine ego says your sense of self, your sense of self-importance, your sense of ideal says that you don't have to offer anything to a relationship outside of who you are, right? Toxic ego in a man is reflected usually according to his strength, right? If we look at men and women and how we differ and what we do differently, men in their most brutal, they are exhibiting toxic strength, right? They are alpha, they are strong, they are overbearing, right? And we witness that through physical brutality, whether it is against their women or if it is just their very person, just overbearing and just taking over rooms. Most people know somebody that exhibits something like that, but we don't talk about what toxic femininity looks like. And I think it is because of this corporate pride that women are engaging in right now. But let me go back to the definition of like toxic femininity. Women Our emotions are our strength. What we can do emotionally, it is the thing that will allow a woman to pick up a Volkswagen to free her child, right? It is that emotional surge that comes inside of us and allows us to do the impossible, right? That is our strength. Well, when a woman is engaging in toxic femininity, that is looked at as emotional brutality. She is using her emotions to control a narrative. She is using her emotional insight to trap people into agreeing with her or manipulating them into backing down from her. She is using her superior feelings, right, about her pride, ego, about how she exists or how she sees herself in a situation in order to persevere. It is no different than the male pride or the male ego. Y'all see where I'm going here right now? The problem that I'm having right now is that, in a very real sense, even as a woman, I've been intentionally trying to have these exchanges, like say to myself, okay, maybe it is how the men are delivering it. Maybe it is how they're saying it. Maybe women just don't want to hear this from men. So for several years now, and anybody who knows me knows this is true, for several years now, I've been purposely charging women when I see that we're wrong. We call it sisterly correction in my sorority, right? Sisterly correction is the dopest thing that a woman can do for another woman. It says that, sis, I see you. And I'm not going to allow another man to have to get into this conversation because, as I've said once, and I'll say it again, I think that men need to deal themselves with men things and women need to deal themselves with women things. But right now, we got a whole lot of men that, honestly, I get it, are forced to protect themselves, to defend themselves, to try to have a counter narrative. Because if they let this shit continue, women are just going to literally engage in active, just, I don't know any other word for it, but lying, like active illogical behavior, active manipulation, active emotional brutality. So I come back to the question, what is the difference between the male ego and feminine pride? The key difference is this. The male ego exists inside of one man. Feminine pride, it exists inside of the entire gender. Right now, I'm looking at women who I know to be smart enough and to be good women that treat their husbands and their fathers and their brothers very, very well. Yet, on social media, in groups, and even collectively amongst ourselves, they will defend the actions of women who appear their social equal and or better. And I really want to focus on that because this is really toxic in its display of how we beat down on our lesser sisters, right? We have no problems talking about women who present themselves like a Cardi B, no disrespect, Cardi, you my homie, or like a Megan Thee Stallion, no disrespect, Megan, you cool. But we have an issue with calling someone like Jada to the carpet. If Jada can be called to the carpet, what does that mean for all of us, right? If Jada is wrong, then you, sis, feel like there is some I don't know, shaky ground that you stand upon. How do I know it? Because I'm a woman. I'm a woman. We're all women. And that's the whole thing that I really, really am just trying to just break down. Let's try to have some moments amongst ourselves. Let's remove these men from these conversations and let's start talking about what we see in each other. So in my next video, it's going to get very, very interesting. But what I want to ask you is, have you ever witnessed toxic femininity around you, in your mother, in your sister, in yourself? Are you willing to admit to it? Are you capable of saying that there is toxicity that is actively supported throughout our community? Maybe the child support system, maybe how a woman has a right to have an abortion, but a man doesn't have a right to not pay for a child that he never agreed to make. Maybe as it relates to violence. In a lot of states, when a woman calls, the man is automatically leaving in cuffs, even when, again, women are extremely violent to their mates. We're not listening to them. And then we're denying what we know to be true. If you take a poll and you ask women, has she ever put her hands on a man? A lot of women are going to admit that they have. And I consider myself to be super duper woke, but what I'm not going to do is be a liar. I too have done it. In my younger, lower self, felt like thy emotions gave me the right to put my hands on another human being, when the truth is I was outmatched and outgunned. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. And I'm grateful that that man had enough compassion upon me, or maybe enough sense of self, to understand that he was dealing with someone that was toxic, immature, and honestly a danger to her damn self. So he didn't go upside my head. However, it didn't take me a whole lot of times to feel like this was wrong. It was something that I grew out of at 22. Now we've got women who are 40 years old engaging in toxic behavior and or approving, co-signing, stamping, excusing, denying, or whatever other example that you want to use for toxic behavior in other women. And at the center of this is the breakdown of our families. And I know that this is not something that just belongs to the Black community. Like, I want to say that right now. You're going to hear me talk to Black women and Black men because that is the community that I'm from, and that I have a specific emotional attachment to protecting my family and that part of things, right? But this exists everywhere. But right now, Black women, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to us. Sister to sister, woman to woman. We are the ones that are experiencing at the same time the highest education. What are we? The greatest educated demographic group in America, or something like that, right? But at the same time, we have the lowest assets of any economic group in America. We got to reconcile that. On the one hand, we are talking about, we are strong, independent Black women. We can do everything. We pop in, whatever. We don't need no man for nothing, you know? Yet at the same time, our children are growing up fatherless and affected. They are more likely to experience the prison system. They are more likely to end up disadvantaged at school, in situations of poverty, just all of these things. And I wonder, when are we going to say to ourselves that I am willing to change on behalf of my family? We're the mothers. We are the ones that is the backbone of our families. And if we are unwilling to cause ourselves into accountability, how are we going to expect anybody else? If we can't just simply treat our counterpart the way we want to be treated, what hope is there? Are we really willing to say that we just don't want to be married? We don't want to be men? Are we just joining that completely? Because I would actually be more comfortable with that. I would be more comfortable if we were saying, you know what? As a group, we've decided we don't want men. As a group, we've decided we're going to do this, that, and the third. But what I'm not comfortable with is continuing the lie that Black men are abdicating their duties with no faults or for no reason of our own. We are complicit. So like, share, pass this video around, join my Facebook group, Toxic Soup, all right? The video that I posted, or several of the posts that I made about Will and Jada, kind of did like a semi-viral, you know, I think it's something like 10,000 shares, 16K or something comments. And it just keeps growing daily. And that's the reason why I'm doing this video, is because I feel like honestly people care, right? And so because we care, I want to keep the conversation going, because it's probably one of the most important conversations that individuals have been on. Celebrities do their thing, they have their issues, it doesn't matter, right? But at the end of the day, what happens in our homes matter. And this is the first time that we've witnessed something happen on the stage that has been a literal mirror to what is going on in our homes right now, in a way that we can talk about it and address it and use Will and Jada as an example. I have my feelings about Will and Jada. I have my feelings about Jada's accountability or lack thereof. But at the end of the day, I also still want to ask people to pray for them, keep them in their heads and their heart. Whatever they're going through, young, it cannot be easy. So on that note, go ahead, like, share, subscribe. Join my Facebook group, Toxic Soup. All of the information will be in there. And go ahead and hit my Instagram up at CEO Breezy. All right. Thank you.